Let me tell you some of the things that I don't do. I don't pay the U.S. income tax. But I want to emphasize for you government agents sitting out there, before you get your water hot now, I don't have any U.S. income. I avoid income like I avoid AIDS, herpes, and VD. People that have income have to pay an income tax, and I don't want to pay the income tax, so I avoid income. Now some guy comes up to me, I had an IRS agent do this one time, he said, in an audit, he said, well, if you don't have any income, how do you live? And I said, very well, thank you. And that's what I want to tell all of you, that before the income tax there was life in America. It's kind of like marriage. You know, I tell people I don't have a marriage license. That's another factor over here. And they look at me and they say, oh, naughty, 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 you see, because I do have a wife. And I try to point out that, you know, before Florida there was marriage, was there not? Now, how did those people conduct those marriages before the state of Florida was issuing those marriage licenses? So there must have been life and marriage and birth and death before the state of Florida got into the religious business of licensing marriage. Sometimes say to me, well, you don't have a marriage license, a birth certificate, a driver's license, you don't pay the income tax. You must be an anarchist, a fellow who doesn't obey any laws. Now that's not true. And oftentimes people have said of me, I am a tax protester. Now that's preposterous. I haven't been protesting any tax. I don't pay it. Why would I protest it? What relevance does it have? It's like a fellow, when was the last time you protested the Argentine income tax? Oh, you didn't do that. Well, of course not. It doesn't affect you. How many of you have been drafted into the Army? Is there anybody here? Nobody can be compelled into the Army against his will and over his objection. You men who just raised your hands aren't lying. I mean, you did receive a letter from somebody, didn't you? And it said, greetings, and you're commanded to appear at the Atlanta Induction Center at 9 a.m. on June 12, 1941 or something. Having been educated in the public education system, you knew that you had to go down and register for the draft because somebody told you that you had to. Now, you didn't go to the U.S. Code in Title 8 or in Title 18 and research the Draft Act of 1917, now did you? We're really afraid to find out what the penalty would be if you didn't show up. Now that's what the real bottom line was. Well, I had a student one time who explained to me that during the Vietnam War, he decided that he wanted to go to prison. Now that's a unique position to take. And he said, I am not going to go into the Army, I'm not going to volunteer, and when they draft me, I'm not going to serve. So he got his draft notice, and it said, thou shalt appear at the Army Induction Center in Atlanta, Georgia, and so he did. He said, all right, line up, and he lined these 24 men up into 2 rows of 12 each. And he said, now take 1 step forward, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. And that's an important moment in law. So Ziggy took 1 step back, 1 step to the left, and said, wait a minute, hold it. If I do this, will I be waiving any of my civil or constitutional rights? And the fellow who was in control here said, why don't you come right over here, son? And he led him through this door. And he came back, he said, about 20 minutes later, and the other 23 guys were gone. And he said, I don't know what happened to those other fellows. And for the next 3 hours and 45 minutes, there was 4 or 5 of these fellows called sergeants and corporals and lieutenants and captains, and they threatened Ziggy. They said, we're going to put you in the penitentiary. We are going to take you out in the alley. And he was able to withstand all of this intimidation, and at 15 minutes to 5, they gave him a one-way bus ticket back to Chattanooga, Tennessee. I've talked to 2 other men who had the very same experience, only they went into the Army, they just saw 2 other guys that refused to take this oath. And when we go to the selective draft law cases of 1917, we find that that is the moment of decision.